desktop source, you don't need to unmute your microphone. The audio source, which probably should already be unmuted.
Yeah, it's already been unmuted. All right. Welcome everyone to another episode of DevCast Ups. Today we have James, Barnaby, and myself, Wale. Today James is going to introduce us to the fancy world of Hashicorp Nomad. Over to you, James.
Yes. So I suppose before we dive directly into Nomad, I thought it'd be interesting to show you how I'm setting it up. So the cloud is expensive. There's EC2 it's good if you want to scale up massively. God, I don't know how expensive this is because it's energy costs. Don't lean back. I'm going to lock my check in a sec. It's energy costs. So I have bought a cheap secondhand server on eBay. They are surprisingly cheap, and it is sitting in my shed because it makes a racket. And this is a hypervisor. I think it's a tier 1 hypervisor they call it. So this sits on the box and it lets me just spin up lots of virtual machines. These are all the virtual machines I've got spun up. We have 3 orange, which are console. There's a misconception that Nomad needs console. It doesn't, but the code and the setup's a lot easier if you have console set up first. So I've just done console, backing, and then Nomad on top. These purple ones are the Nomad servers, and the blue ones are the Nomad clients. So I've got 3 console, 3 Nomad servers, 3 Nomad clients. I have these 2 already set up. I have turned them off in Nomad. Maybe we'll touch them in the end, but they are what I was using for testing, and decommissioning them was more effort than I can bothered. So we are setting up this one, which is Odin today. So what I'm going to do is if I go into the console, and I've already logged in, but I made you bigger. Oops. So if I just go full screen, all I'm going to do from this is I'm just going to do IP add, and I'm just going to get the IP address of this box, which actually I already know. So the next steps require this address, the username, the password I used to log in. Just because we're going to use console to set up, I suppose I can go like Nomad and console to prove that I'm not doing anything tricky. Hopefully you'll trust me that they're not installed. So the first thing we need is we need to set up console. As you can see, I already need IP. So this is probably too small. Maybe a little bit bigger. So I'm going to turn Discord into stream mode so people don't get pings from me. Give me 1 second. How do I do this? That one. Stream mode. Enable. Oh, 2 pings. Yay. Okay. That's fine. Now I just need to get this back up. Nope, not that one. Oh, so professional, that one, so I can see everyone. Cool. Sorry about that. I should have done that before we started. So we've got the IP of the server, the client. So these are the console servers, these are the console clients. It's got the IP, the Ansible user we use to log into it, and a server name, which means absolutely nothing. It's purely so I know what server I'm installing onto. So if I go onto the terminal, and I'm just going to go and install this, which is Control R if you don't know it. It's something I never knew about, and it is a really useful feature. I feel like I spelled the password wrong.
Yeah, you'll throw a load of errors very quickly if
Yeah.
you did.
So the command I'm doing a -k and --ask become password. If you've not seen them, it just means anytime it needs a password, it'll prompt. So you don't need to worry about, certainly if you're running it locally, you don't need to worry about like setting variables or environment variables that like ask the password. It will just do it for me.
You need to have the whole fun of building Ansible players that fetch secrets from a secure location and injecting them into your code on the fly.
Yes, the problem is though, I don't have a secure location. This is the base of my network. So someday, yes, within here I will have Vault, and then future requests can go to Vault. Because this is not a good password. Like this should be using Vault, either one-time password or the SSH key cutting to make it secure. I should probably also show you within my console. So this is console. I can go on to nodes, and Odin is what we're looking for, who is not currently here. And then when this is all set up, he'll appear. And then the same with Nomad. I have my 2 clients, and Odin isn't one of them. So hopefully, and these are ineligible, so we're not touching them with the demos, because otherwise they'll pick one of them, and the demo will look less impressive.
With the boxes, were there any sort of min spec that you needed to size them to get things running on?
I was doing 2 vCPUs and 2 gigs of RAM. I have run console and Nomad on my Raspberry Pi. It gets a little bit iffy when you start running multiple things. I didn't crazy look, but I don't think there is like a Hashicorp recommended minimum spec. So this is started now. It's got all the changed. So hopefully within this one, I should get my server.
I guess a little bit of that. I know at least with console, you can kind of resize how big it puts entries in the back end is, and that'll allow you to shrink it even further if you really need it.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I know this code works. I can't remember how quickly this spins up. So I am just going to do the same thing for Nomad now. So I'm going to copy this block. In the best way, I've made my code in 2 different places, but use the same blocks of code. So within Nomad, this is inventory. This is going to be a client. I've split these up into 2 folders, but not the other ones for some reason. And then this will hopefully click up enough times. Oh, totally messing Terraform. I mean, yeah. Ansible. Okay. So this should now be setting up. Yeah, cool. It's changing the one. And I've made it so if nothing changes, it won't restart the service. So there's no like worry about adding another client, destroying everything else. Because that can be a thing that happens if you're not careful. I couldn't work out to make it not run in parallel. And there we go. That's done, nice and quick. Hopefully, if I get all these.
I think it's forks is the answer for parallel thing, but it's been a little while.
That is not connected to everything. So close. So hopeful. So hopeful.
You should know the curse of live demos. It never works, despite it working previously.
So if I go, oops, wow, that didn't actually do any typing. So if I go console, so get into root, because everything I want to do will be within root. I don't think that's the right password. It's like, oh, console's so easy, it'll just work. No install keys could decrypt message. Let's get a little bit more information. Cluster failed. Could not join 7, 10, 16. Which are the servers? Seven, 10, 16.
Has the encryption key populated onto all of them correctly?
cat. The encryption key is stored in the config file. So let's go clear cd etc/ nomad. Wait, I want console. I need to go -etc/console. The cat. That is an encrypt key.
Is it a correct encrypt key?
It should be. I'm just going to go. I don't know why restarting it would fix it, but
It's the first thing you tell anyone to do in OT.
no known servers, index 9. Okay. And the way I can tell the encrypt key is by logging into something else. Let's go Freet. Oh, you should have set the server up beforehand.
It's part of the journey.
It's part of the journey. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's. I have no way of scrolling in this thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't even have Vi installed.
Nano? Wow.
I can't less, but I can more. That's a different key, isn't it?
I cannot remember.
F30. Oh no, F30. That is the same key.
Did you run Answell against all of the servers?
Yeah,
Do we have to do TLS false?
I'm using TLS. I suppose if in doubt, I could rerun the Ansible.
Well, the trouble is if console's set up under a different encryption key, that encryption key gets stored into memory the first time it starts up. So if you generate a new encryption key and put it into the config file, it won't take the new key, it still uses the old key.
If I
Let's just wipe
go
the back end.
ls, so if I go cat keygen, so this gets created and it won't generate a new key unless this doesn't exist.
Okay.
So that should be fine. I assume there's no way of pulling the encryption key out.
Not that I know of.
Okay. Trying to think if there's a good way of like debugging this.
You could try and start execute the command as the user, the console user. If you're running this as a console user, sometimes it gives you more verbose output most of the time.
That's a good idea. Console. So I'm just going to go into service file, grab the command. Oh yeah, I can't actually paste into terminal. This is probably the point where it'd be just as good, easy to should just be SSH into it. Console agent dash config equals dash etc dash console.d. Failed to create member list, could not set up network transport, failed to change address, failed to start TCP listener, port. It's already in use.
Let's check what's listening on it.
How do you check what's listening on something?
It's one of those things that I always have to look at.
Oh, console's running. What's running on it? Console is running on it.
So just not joining the cluster.
We don't know.
Try
No known
rebooting
console
something.
servers. Yeah, it looks like it's started, but it's not. I could actually, if I go, right, I go exit system CTL stop console. Where am I storing my console stuff? And they go arm-rf-ops-console. And then I go start. Start. Oh. I'm going to run, it wants to make the directory. I deleted the directory that it wants. Because I wonder if it started weirdly, maybe loaded in a bad config file or something. Maybe loaded a bad encryption key or something. Stored that into memory, started, and it's like, oh no, I can't use that. So I'm just rerunning it. And hoping, and if this doesn't work, I may run through the demo. It'll be less fancy, but I may run through it and just kind of talk through, because we're 20 minutes in and I haven't even like really talked about Nomad.
My approach to console when it breaks is burn it down and start it again.
I mean, I could, but that would take half an hour.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Make the directory and make it readable to the console user.
I mean, that should. Okay. No install keys could decrypt the message. Which is so weird. But anyway, this is not what we're here for. I'm just going to try. No, I'm going to stop this. This is fine. I have extra clients. I'm going to just pick one of these. Let's do this one because I think Les has one on this one. Okay. Right, I can probably just make the server to the point where I can like app install, app remove. App remove, isn't it? Can you just feel the professionalism?
No pressure.
I feel like this is exactly how a day at the office normally goes, to be honest.
Here's my demo. Oh, wait.
And isn't that all what professional means, that you do it for money?
Yeah. Docker C. I think this is one of the coolest parts of Docker, one of the coolest parts of Nomad, but it does require stuff removed a little bit. Okay. I've hopefully removed enough of Docker that it will think it's removed. So who am I on? I'm on Shiva. Yeah. So Docker is unhealthy, which is fine. So I'm going to turn the server back on and let's talk about Nomad. So the way Nomad kind of breaks down is you've got servers and clients. So these are the servers. We've got 3 of them, high availability, as with standard Hashi products. You've got leaders. There's data centers, so you can tell the servers what server to join based on data center, so you can kind of like segregate your network if you want to. If you go into the enterprise world, there is namespaces because enterprise love namespaces. But in the way we live, this is what we've got. There's also ACL and all that sort of stuff, which I'm not touching today, where you can. I am an unlogged in user and I have full access. Obviously, you wouldn't want that in a real world example. Client has unhealthy drivers. Okay, so and then within this, with variables, which I messed with. We're not actually going to talk about variables today, but variables, you should probably be using something like Nomad, something like Vault if you really want to do variables. Storage, this works the same way as Kubernetes works with its storage. So any Kubernetes, their CSI plugins will work with Nomad, or an amount of them do. I'm not entirely sure how this works, but this is sorry, I've not dived too much into this, but this is how you do persistent storage with Nomad, because it's got the same issues, stuff like Kubernetes and Docker, where when a job dies, its storage dies. But this is how you link. You can link it to something like EBS, or I think you can just do like local storage if you wanted to have local storage that persists.
Could you do replication through here? So could you bind to volumes and have the same data written to both?
Yes. Yes, yeah, you can. You can have any number of things that can be bound to the same volume. And then you've got the big part of all this is jobs, which is the stuff you want to run. If you just click run job, you can write you can have templates. You can choose from templates. They have some very basic templates to show you things you can do. But we're not going to do that. I've written my own. So into the world of Nomad. So that's this one. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to spin up a service, we're going to spin up a job. Jobs have a job. You can tell it which data center you want. Star means any. If you wanted to have a Europe data center and a US data center, and only your GDPR jobs have to run Europe, and anything can run US, this is kind of how you would lock that down. Within a job, you have groups. Groups are a block of tasks. I don't actually think I have anything that does more than one task. But I was looking at something a moment ago that would do like multiple steps one after each other. Or I think it was VNC I was trying to set up. So you'd have a server as a task and the client as a task. So that would all be within one group. Groups of accounts, so it tells you how many of a thing you want. So I'm telling this I want 5 instances of this spun up within the server. Networking is relatively self-explanatory. It tells you what network, how you want the networking to be set up. So I've got a port. I'm giving it a kind of a label, which is where we can define it later. The 2 is internally binding. I want it to be port 8080. It will give me a random external port on the client. This can be set to static if you only want, if you want to force the port. Obviously, you can't have 2 jobs in the same sorry, you can't have 2 tasks in the same client with the same IP. It breaks. But if you're doing something like Vault and you wanted it spread out over multiple clients, you can then force the static IP because you know you're only going to have 1 per client. And I do have a little bit of a Vault demo if we get there, which goes more into how you can do one per client. We've then got the service. This tells console or Nomad. Nomad will do service checking, but as I have console set up, it will use console. And I'm telling it a name, a port, a tag to use, and what type of check. This can do HTTP requests. It can do basic TCP, UDP stuff. It can do quite a lot. And then I suppose the meat of it all is the task. This is kind of what you're setting up. A couple of things we're doing with this. We're taking the driver. So this can be Docker, Quem, which is kind of virtualization. Like you can just spin up a virtual machine through this. This can also do raw and raw exec, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And I think that's where it can also do Java. Yay, Java. But it can do raw and raw exec, which I think is one of the places where Nomad shines over some of the competition. And again, you tell it what service you're doing. You've then got the config block. This is the config for the driver. So I'm setting the image. This is the image to pull from the Docker registry, the port, which links to the network block we defined at the top. And then some args just to tell it I don't want to authenticate. I just want to be able to log in. This is how you link the Docker volumes. And then the artifact. This, I don't think I ever actually got this working. Oh, no, I have. So what this will do is artifact will go to a URL, and it can be an archived URL. So this pulls a zip file down, and it'll store it in this location. And if it is archived, it'll unarchive it. So what this will do is this will load Coda, which is a Visual Studio Code online web GUI, and it will load in this repo. Barnaby and Wale may gather where I got this example from.
I just see that and it gives me the thoughts of this is just a great pathway to launch an attack from if you ever get access to a Nomad job. Just here's a URL that you can download some executables from.
So this uses C groups and permissions to make it so you can't leave your area, except something we're going to deal with in a second. So I'm going to Terraform. I'm going to go into the Terraform directory because we're now in the output directory.
I guess if it still leaves you, that means I just had to run coin mining exploits on it instead.
It's as secure as Docker.
Yeah, that's fair. I think there's a lot of breakouts for Docker.
You are pulling a Docker image down. I think pulling an artifact down is not as important. I'm just going to Terraform init to make sure my Terraform stuff's fine. And then I'm going to do a Terraform apply. So if people are curious, it fully sees the job spec. So it'll see if a change happens in the job spec. And then some other fun things. So I'm just going to apply this. And then we get to go into, I'm just going to pull this down actually. That into one side, and then if I refresh this, we should have our job. Missing drivers, filtered one node. So this was a planned error. This is one of those things I think actually, I think is a really nice thing about Nomad. So if this was correct, we have a fresh instance we've done nothing with. I have forced that. So our driver we've specified is Docker. If we go into our clients list, one client that works, you can see here where there's the drivers. These are the kind of 5 drivers you get. Docker is unhealthy. So Docker isn't working on this client. This is the only client, so we can't run Docker, which is a shame. We want to be running Docker. So what we're going to do is via Nomad, let's install Docker. So if you look into their documentation, they Hashicorp kind of sell Nomad as both sysadmins and app developers can manage the server via Nomad. So we can play with this stuff, the raw exec stuff, and app teams can run with app team stuff.
But the error doesn't actually tell us that Docker wasn't installed, right?
So the error tells us there is no client with our driver. With the driver we want, which is Docker, there is no client that specifies that conforms to that constraint.
And
if you had more than one driver in the job, would it not sort of tell you which one was missing?
I don't know. I don't know if this is the task name. The problem is I've named everything the same. If this is the task name, then that would tell you, because you can only have one driver per task.
Okay.
Things to play with, things to look into. This is a quick and dirty demo. So this is a Docker example. So what we're doing is we have, I think that needs to say group in front. Let's make that say, oh no, it always says group. Okay, yes, so we have our job, Docker. This is a sys batch job, whereas this, the other one wasn't defined. We didn't tell it what type of job it was. It defines a service. This is a sys batch job. So this should run on every client once and not start again when it exits happy. So this is on every server, these are some setup scripts. Raw exec is the dangerous job. That means you can run anything on the server. So this is the don't put things in the little cage you normally put things in. I wish there was a better way of doing on this, but this is how you have to kind of run multiple commands. You just tell it to run a script, and then they have this glorious template block, which saves a block of text into a file. So this is the code from Docker's website on how to install Docker on Ubuntu. I'm storing it into the local setup file and then just running that file as sh. So
could you run like an Ansible job through Nomad to do it? So instead of calling a shell script, you could run like an Ansible playbook or something like that.
Yeah, if Ansible was set up, you could go Ansible dash playbook, list of playbook name.
Because at that point you're getting dangerously close to just using. You may as well use Puppet because you're trying to centrally manage Ansible, which is essentially what Puppet is.
But I hope at one point, certainly with how much they link Ansible with Packer, there's going to be a Ansible driver or a equivalent driver that runs more config management tools.
I'm assuming the drivers are open source in the sense that you could build your own one if you wanted to.
I believe so. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to uncomment this because otherwise it would have just run everything at the start and where's the fun of that? So I'm going to get my terminal back. View terminal. Rerun Terraform apply. As you can see, it's got one to add. This is what we saw last time. Type in yes. And this time, within the jobs, within our Docker job, we can see it's running on the server. We can view the logs. It is failing to write GPG key out, which is fine. But it's class started. See, there's one not scheduled. So this is because it's trying to run on the server that's been like turned off. I actually don't know if this works.
Sorry, are you selected standard out or standard error at the moment for the logs?
That's error. This is out. Error while processing Docker CE. not fully installed or removed, not upgraded. So there's a chance this is working and just like something's gone wrong. So it's just like stuck in a loop. This is probably a like, oh yeah, completed. I don't know why it was looping. This says it's completed fine. So if I go into clients and go back into Shiva, we can see that Docker is still unhealthy. Oh yeah, there we go. Docker is now healthy. I was just a little bit too quick. So now if we go into our job and we go to Coda, it's still pending. So this isn't picking up the change. So if we just stop it up here and then go start again, hopefully this time it'll check the servers. And as we can see here, it is spinning up 5 versions of Coda. So if we click on there.
Do you know if you can change the poll rate?
Probably. I haven't looked too much actually into the client configs, so there may be a way. But also that may be a UI issue.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Also, these servers are quite small. I've made reasonable sized client. Well, I had made a reasonably sized client. We couldn't get to start. Anyway, this is spinning up. I'm just going to check. Is there any chance that since we've last looked, it's fixed itself? No. But that's fine. Security services. You can also see Nomad with client. It will configure everything, and you can see it's all like healthy, which is quite nice. Good way of seeing what's going on.
With the console and stuff, so I remember one of the things I saw on like the Hashicorp was they were trying to make Nomad a little bit more self-contained, because previously you had to spin up like 3 other Hashi products before you could even spin up Nomad. And so, what is it? Just console you need to know below? Could you just spin up Nomad in a standalone without any other dependencies?
So you can definitely spin up without any dependencies. Where's my Nomad code? This is my Nomad code. So the only reason why I am using console underneath is it means that in this code, actually, yeah, within all of this code, I do not have to specify an auto join block. Like at no point do I specify any other server's IP address.
That's neat.
And that's the benefit. Like if everything's in console, Nomad just starts, which is why the other server, because console failed, it couldn't join Nomad. I could probably write the one line auto join stuff to make it connect. But yeah, so here is our 5 servers up, because Docker spun up. We've got it connected without having to like manually log into the server or find the Ansible code we've got lying around to set up the server correctly. The server has Nomad. And we could do, as you're saying, we could have the tasks, we'd have multiple tasks, one after another. One task that does the raw exec, and then one task that does the Docker. So only the clients we're installing this on, we check to make sure Docker's set up. But obviously we've given them random ports, so now we need to work out how we connect one. So if I go into this ID here, which is the allocation ID, and then it gives us our port, and then we've got our code, and then we've got our project, and then this is our Nomad project. So nice and easy. There was a weird this should be able to just pull Git. I was having weird issues where it can't, just because the way Go deals with Git. So that's the reason why it's a zip file, not just a Git repo. But it was a good proof that works. And obviously there is 5 of them. If I go to the client, if I go to topology, you can see the client and you can see how the memory is being used. So we can see that these all are our jobs. If this is in a production environment and one of your servers was full, you could go in here and be like, this job, why is it taking up half a server? And then go and bollock the team that's using it, or check to make sure they're actually doing it correctly. And obviously this one's locked, so we're not using this one, but we'll use it later.
Does it dynamically expand workloads? Or do you specify the sort of resource allocation?
So I'm not specifying the resource allocation, I think, in any of these actually, but you can. So within the Nomad code, that's that one. Within the Nomad code, I don't know if I am. No, you can specify a resources block, and it'll then use that to decide to like take the amount of resources that you want.
Can you auto scale?
As in spin up more and less.
Yeah.
There is a within Nomad there is a scaling block. If we go into the good old, this is the Terraform docs. Nomad.
Funny, sometimes I read the Terraform docs instead of the actual product docs because it's easier to understand because it's in a standardized format across everything.
Yeah, they don't have, annoyingly, they're not fully, everything isn't as easy as it should be. But there is scaling where you can specify scaling stuff and policies and things like that. It knows how much of the system you're using, so it should be able to scale if needed. So if you've got something like console watching the service, you can be like on if response times get too low, or there's probably a way of getting CPU usage and stuff out of the boxes. Yeah, there's a lot. What was I doing for my third? Okay, third one. Last time I was on, 2 weeks ago, we set up boundary. So let's set up boundary again. So the interesting thing about changing to Nomad over something like just spinning up normally is normally you use systemd. Normally you create a services file. You don't need to do that for any of this. You just run it and it's all in its little localized box. So I suppose this doesn't do anything crazy more than the other one. This is an exec driver though. So this uses what are called C groups, which is containerization before Docker made it call. So this will run in its own file system and it has its own like area of control. It runs as the user nobody, so it has no access to do anything except run the things that it's given that have write access to allow everyone to do stuff. And the same as the last one, we are loading in a template file. We are using some Terraform. We're using Terraform templating. The way you get variables in from Terraform is a little bit weird. There's multiple different ways because there's a way of getting variables from Vault or kind of the Nomad store, or you can just load them with Terraform. This isn't a secret, so this works. And then the kind of the artifact, which was done before, and then just the command to run. And now if I run this one, it should really have just control P'd this. Yeah, so we're just using the template file variable to generate it. If people haven't seen it, it's a cool way of doing, cool way of doing hashy stuff, doing template files. Let's play this. Go.
It's very similar to the Ginger 2 templating.
Yes, it can't do the crazy for loops and stuff though.
I think.
Oh no, you may be able to. Yeah. Oh yeah. While boundary is spinning up, another cool thing with Coda, because we set the services up within console, we now have a Coda block. It's been registered by Nomad. And all this does is checks to make sure the service and IP does a ping. But you could make this go to a health check URL. So for Vault, if you wanted to, you could do the /health endpoints and make sure Vault's all up and running and healthy. But this is all defined within your standard job spec, but is viewable from your kind of big services sheet. So you can you could very easily see, oh, what services are critical. If you were in a big organization, wanted to have kind of oversight on how your services are working. And all these tags and stuff get pulled from the job spec as well. And hopefully while I've been, yep.
The other thing that's popped to my mind is like if you didn't want it to register with console? Could you get it to not register? But then I'm trying to think, is there a use case where you wouldn't want it registered with console?
So it is this block that tells it to register with console. So if you just don't have this block, it won't register it. Or if you go type equals Nomad, it'll register with Nomad as a service to check, but not console. So yeah, it's nice to have. Like, this is the only service that I register with console. The rest of them, don't worry about it. Within the script, there's no registering part, so it won't show up in here. But it's quite nice if you want to like make sure that all the instances are up. So if this is your like coding environment, if this spins up every morning for everyone to be able to log in, it will be nice to see 5-10 minutes before everyone logs in that all their services are up and running.
I guess an extension of that is there alerting built in, so if it expects something to be spun up and it's in a failed state, it can ping a Slack channel or something like that.
I think that's something console would do, but I don't think Nomad is not really designed for that. The Nomad alerting is more for like this stuff where it'll just be like healthy. I think you can get it so if it's unhealthy, it'll like spin up a new one. But this is boundary up. We can view the logs. We can see our worker registration request token, which we'd need to put into the UI to make this worker usable. I suppose I could go a little bit more into these logs. So if I go to the task page, so these are kind of the steps that it's done. So it's receives it, then builds the directory. It then downloads the artifact and it goes, and then it starts the client. If say, I don't know, something's gone weird with this and you just want to go in and check, we can click this little exec thing in the top. And then if I click enter, we're now inside that little box. So if I go like CD, and if you see it local, it looks like a normal computer. But if I go local, I mean, if I go like CD bin, actually, even has most of the files. But anyway, local is more okay about. Local.
Can you run Nomad in Nomad?
Yes, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Because I know Docker doesn't like running in Docker.
But you're
Some
not.
weird things that
happen. So the problem is Nomad likes being root. There are some things that it wants to do that being root makes it a lot easier. Yeah, so we're in. So I don't know. Say we lost the registration key for boundary, we can then CD into worker one. If I remember how boundary works. Worker one, and then there's the folder that has the auth request token. So we can kind of log into the box and do a little bit of debugging if something's gone wrong and Nomad doesn't give you the information you want. Another fun thing, I'm probably not going to go into now because I think we're running a little bit out of time, is this is just the path on the server. So you can get here by being the server. So unlike Docker, where even as root, you can't really access the file system, a root on the box, if it's an exec job, you can just go to that file path, which is good if things are being weird and your server isn't starting at quite as it should. Yeah, as you can see, we've got the resource utilization. So we could do, this is running at 93%, we should spin up another one, or we just give it more resources. But the last thing I think we should do is let's spin Vault up. So this one, I believe, needs more than one server. So if we see here, I've got a constraint. So I'm telling it to be distinct hosts. So it'll only ever spin one version of Vault up on each host. Because obviously if you're spinning Vault up and you want it in high availability, if they're all on the same server, all on the same client, that doesn't help you. I don't think you really should be spinning multiple Nomad clients up on one server. I don't think there's any benefit to that. I think there's a level where you wouldn't need a hypervisor if you're using Nomad. You would just want the Nomad kind of as close to the like bare metal server as possible. I'm saying for network ports up, I don't care about the IP and the cluster address. I'm happy with whatever Nomad gives me. I'm then doing the standard like setting up stuff. I'm registering a service, so console will know about it. And then within the config, I'm using something new, which I don't think we've seen yet, which is the env. Passing so these are the variables that are set up. Passing them within the template is a bit weird. So this env is a function that gets this information, and then it's within the 2 quotes. Anywhere else, you can just like, here I'm specifying the port just by using its string. But here you have to specify the env and then the ports, then the ID name, and the ID name has to be in quotes. I've spent longer than I should messing with this. And actually, I've turned TLS off, so I shouldn't have HTTPS. ID, there's a unique ID associated with every node. So I'm just telling Raft to use that ID because the IDs in Raft need to be specific. Though I don't know if that's actually generic enough. Oh, that's fine. And then TCP, I'm telling it to listen to the host port that we are creating. And then I'm telling Vault to register with console because why not? Then if I go, yeah, we've done that. And then if I do the apply, wait, before I do the apply, let's tell Ramu to be back online. So I suppose people may be wondering why I can disable these servers. If you need to like patch the server or do any changes, well, there's this drain. And what you'll tell it to do, and I can actually do a deadline. And I'll tell it, so like within an hour, I want you to remove all the jobs from this client and spin them up on another one. So this client is then fully kind of out of service. You can then do all the patching or updates you need to do on this server. Then you can re-enable it and then drain the next one and rinse repeat. But I'm not going to do that. So remove up. I mean, I'm just going to use the exec, so I don't really need Docker or raw. And then I'm just going to click yes here. Then if we go into jobs, see the Vault job has appeared. We want 2, and then these are the 2 spinning up. You can see we're on 2 different clients. And this is where it's saying reserved. I think this is the default, 100 megabytes, 300 meg RAM. So I think actually if you don't specify, it'll go these defaults, which is probably a little bit small for Vault. But that's those 2. And then, so yeah, as you can see, it started Vault. I'm just going to take this IP. Take this IP and go here. And we now have Vault up and running. And if I go into console, you can see maybe at some point it'll register. Nope. There we go. There's Vault. It's sealed. So yeah, nodes is okay. So there's Vault. It's sealed. Obviously we can unseal it if we want to. Obviously automation to unseal is not something that I would maybe suggest you do with Nomad. I was wondering how you could tell the auto join to work. I don't know what the best way of doing those. That didn't give me the keys. That just sealed itself. There we go. I wonder if I haven't given it enough enough resources to run correctly. Because Vault on 100 megabits, 100 megabits CPU and 300 megabyte RAM, sorry, 100 megahertz CPU, 300 megabit RAM is not a lot. I'm not going to worry about unsealing this. Like, oh no, I was going to show you the new. We were talking before. I was going to show you what the new Vault looked like.
I'm going to copy that root token as well.
Unseal. Look at that. That's so different how it normally looks. I have a nice seal Vault. I wonder how many people are going to accidentally click the seal Vault button.
They went for the Terraform look because that's how
Yeah.
the Terraform looks now.
I hope a normal user does not see this button.
Or click on it. Maybe you can
I
confirm.
think they will. Actually, no.
Yes,
I don't think because it hides. Normally, Vault hides what it can't access.
But anyone can seal Vault.
Not really,
It's no,
because
it's an API.
in a working environment, you normally only get access to your path. And
I think a lot of people can seal Vault. I think sealing Vault is one of those things they let a lot of people do.
It's what sysseal you have to have access to.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's an admin thing. I remember seeing something that a lot of people can seal. But and then the silly CLI that does nothing useful. It does not include KV2 write or put commands.
You just use Vault read or write and then just put an API command.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, I'm gonna seal this.
Amazing.
And these are the servers. We can see, I suppose, we can see how much information we've used. That one. Look, we've used like 8% of the CPU. Like we've used barely any of the server. Yeah. A lot of network though. So it's been downloading quite a lot. So, have you two got any? I'll go back to topology. You can see we've got two here. Lots of things here. Our total cluster details. We have 11 gigahertz.
Configuration for the health part. If I wanted to change the health the status page.
What do you mean the status page?
So like if I wanted to see the health of each server, of each job actually, it's their jobs, right? So
yeah. So in jobs, you can just click. You can see they're running here.
Yeah, but you said that each of them have. You can change where they're pointing to, right?
Yeah. So within that's more of a console thing.
Okay.
So within the coder thing here, with the service, instead of type being TCP, I think I can set HTTP, and then I can just specify URL. So this is very similar to the kind of console service block, where it will then load in, it'll load into console the service, so you don't need to worry about separately adding the service or any monitoring you want to do.
Makes sense.
I suppose another benefit, which I believe exists just from something I've watched, is all these logs that are stored. So if I go into allocation, no, task, job, okay, that one. All these logs are, I believe, are specified on the stored on the server. So all the logs kind of get like correlated together by default.
So then we can send them to a dedicated server just for logs.
Yeah, and then from here you can pass them along. So you don't need to worry about making sure every single server tracks their logs and sends them along. They get pulled into the Nomad servers, and the Nomad servers can push them along.
Makes sense. And is Nomad an enterprise product as well?
Yeah, so the enterprise product gives you lots of stuff I don't really understand, and namespaces. So the same way Vault, you can have namespaces. Nomad gives you that, and I think it has some more network features. So you can do like segmentations and stuff, which I haven't really looked into because I am still touching the surface of basic Nomad, let alone going in depth into the like more enterprise stuff.
Okay. Because as far as I remember, offline you were telling me how Nomad is almost a competition to Kubernetes.
I think Nomad is a competition to Kubernetes and to hypervisors. And certainly if they like double down and decide that's what they want to do, I think they can easily be it. As you saw with the Vault, the thing with Kubernetes is it runs in a container on a data like on top of a data plane somewhere. This is running just on a server with like some seaplane stuff. But if the Vault service went down, there is no reason why Vault should go down. Yeah, that should be right.
Data stored for it. Is it
So,
within the container of the job, or is it in a persistent claim?
If
Or
I go,
equivalent to a persistent claim?
actually both of them. Let's go into Shiva. So let's log into the servers. I can show you. So, can I remember where the data is? So you specify this location. So under alloc here, sorry, it's really hard to see because of the blue. So these are all the like allocations. These are all the kind of services we're running. So if I just go into here, I said we're on Shiva. So if I just go here, I should be able to see the allocations. So this is Vault, says C2BB. C2BB. When it loads. Oh, come on, tab complete for me. Oh, it's C2. That's why it's not complete. C2BB. And if I go ls, cd into Vault. So I can only do this because I'm admin. Obviously, if you just had normal access, you would not want anyone to do this. But then if I cd into local, there's my Vault data. So I could like, even if the Nomad server died, or the Nomad client died, the data would still be here. But you can use the storage part to enable storage plugins like persistent claims, like EBS, like I'm sure Azure and GCP are the same. Like you can use systems that will mount external drives in as what the job cares about.
Is the Nomad, if the Nomad service crashes but console's still up and running, the service still be discoverable?
So if the Nomad client dies, is the service Nomad deployed still discoverable?
Yeah.
I don't know. System CTL stop Nomad. Yes. What did I kill? Shiva. So stop, and then if I go to view, yep, everything's still happy even though the client's crashed. Maybe happy was a bit too optimistic. Oh, maybe it has actually killed it.
It just takes time.
Well, I mean, I stopped the service. I didn't. Yeah, I stopped the service. I didn't just like kill the process. So there's a chance that Nomad cleans up when it kills. But I mean, this is still up and running, or maybe the port binding fails. I don't know.
It'd be a real neat feature if it did, because then it kind of allow you kind of decouple some kind of risk.
Well, Coda's unhappy. Everything's got a little bit unhappy now.
All of the coders were on that one host.
That is true. Oh, this says they're down. Though this is spinning up Docker and all the coders. So this is trying to recover everything that was down. So
in this case, you would lose all your data.
Yes, but if you had a one of the persistent storages or an offsite storage, it would just like remap to the new storage and keep going.
If your sort of jobs were stateless.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you were just doing like coder VS Code stuff, pulling often and stuff, maybe you'd lose half an hour worth of work. But
I was saying it's failed Docker but successfully deployed the Docker containers.
Yeah, this is it does Xcode 100, which I don't know what that means. It like I don't really know. It's the like lock stuff's going wrong. I don't know. Don't worry about it. This is not like a good way of doing things, I believe. Like this is weird stuff happening. I have hastily put this together as a cool demo. I would never recommend anyone using sys bash to install Docker to then control Docker processes. Like I had to set up Nomad console, even if I had a AMI or a template image that had them in, I might as well install Docker at that point. But yeah. Anything else you want to chat about?
Okay.
You guys now understand Nomad?
Understand it more. I wouldn't say understand fully.
Do you now see the benefit of Nomad?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks useful.
Yeah, it does. I'm just trying to see how you could sell this to a client in a sense, like depending on the project you're on. Like so far, I don't see it yet.
I guess the most useful bit would be if you were kind of on the on-prem like data center side. If you were helping set up like a client's private cloud, this would be a neat way to run it.
So their like sales pitch is spinning up like 1 million jobs in 5 minutes or something. Like that is their sales pitch. Like they've spun up a crazy amount of jobs for 5 minutes and then span them all back down. Like that is they're trying to compete on the like scheduler front.
So wait, does that mean they're competing with EMRs then?
So EMRs are slightly different, but yes, they are competing with the like mass scale, the like scale up, scale down. Yeah. You can have it very small, and then as soon as you need it, make it massive.
Yeah, because that's what EMR does as well. It spins up a massive, what do you call it, EC2 instance, for example, and then you have multiple EC2 instances. And
so EMRs are all about the software they have installed more than the actual like what is behind like infrastructure stuff. The infrastructure stuff is just to like be fancy.
Yeah.
Elastic Map Reduce, as they're actually called, is all about map reducing, I assume. Data science stuff.
They were using it to run jobs, right? So
yeah,
you can do this as well.
Yeah, but the way EMRs are set up is very much they are built in a way that helps data science do data science stuff. Which this could do. You could probably do this in a way, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I can install everything I'm installing on the EMR the same way here as well. Because all the stuff that you're saying that helps the data science, it's like Spark and all that. I can get that installed on here as well.
Yeah, you could.
And it's even cheaper.
Who knows if it's cheaper?
I mean, can you schedule the jobs here as well?
Yeah, there's scheduling stuff. There's like this can do a lot. I have brushed the service with I can click a button and it'll open up.
But anyways, that's it for me actually. Barnaby, do you have anything?
No more questions for me.
James, thank you for the demo. That was really good. Looking forward to part 2.
Maybe I need to learn a little bit more about Nomad before part 2.
All right. Anyways, if there are no further inputs, then I would call this a day. All right. Shall we just say bye-bye until next time? Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow. I think I've hit like
Like that card to hold up to remind what to say at the end.
These are your words.
all right. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Thanks for watching.
See you.